hold it really close.
Yeah.
Okay. That's probably one of the only times I've been told in my life and career that I need to talk really loudly and really closely to the microphone. I probably don't need it, but we'll see how it goes. So let's give it a go. Oh, there's me, really big face. Let's move on. So hi everyone, I'm Amelia Bampton. I work for Infinity Works. I've worked in tech for 20 years, and I'm here to tell you about authenticity. So let me just start with a story about two people I used to work with in leadership roles, and I want to talk to you about their approach to leadership. So one of these people that I used to work with, they were very guarded when I worked with them. They didn't tell me much about themselves very often. It was hard to kind of crack that nut. What have you done at the weekend? Not that much. That was a great chat. I remember not to have that next Monday. And they're very transactional in their approach to talking to me and the team about work. Can you do this? That'd be great. There was no energy, there was no enthusiasm. And I realise now there was kind of no authenticity, but we'll save that bit, that's the rest of the talk. So that was that leader, happy days. And then there was someone else I used to work with, and they were great. And they used to turn up at the office, and they were very open, very honest, very transparent in terms of who they are, what they're about, what their personality's like, what they're good at, what they're not so good at. We have that side to us. And yeah, it was a really interesting dynamic working with these two people. So I'm going to pause for a minute. I'm going to do that really awkward thing people who speak do to try and bring the crowd in and raise the energy after pizza and drinks. Can you, for a minute, tell me what kind of leader do you think was the best one to work with out of those two that I worked with? Yeah. And why do you think that is? Why do you think that is? When you see the two different types, very simple, kind of high-level view I've given you, why do you think it is that the second person was easier to kind of work with and get along with?
Probably the vulnerability that they show to you,
yeah.
And then you can give that back in return.
Exactly. You know, tech is great and tech is amazing and fabulous and all that kind of good stuff, but behind the screen, behind every tech delivery, behind every tech innovation, currently it's people. I'm not going to lie, don't hold me to that. So the world is ever changing, but it is people, and people are really important to me. And so kind of, yeah, I can concur. The second person was much easier to work with. They also got better results in tech and delivery from their team because they showed that vulnerability. So kind of like any kudos points to the crowd who's not had too much wine. Who do you think that person was? Do you think you know who they are? Or was both of those people me? Schedule really big Amelia face again, right? Okay. So both of those people that I just spoke about were me at different points in my career. And the actual core of this talk that I will keep to time on is about the journey that I made from person A to person B. And the reason that I'm so passionate about sharing this story, Amy's like, can you do a talk? I'm like, yeah, what's it on? You know, which is my general default reaction to generally anything. But she said authenticity, and the reason I'm really passionate about this topic, and it really did resonate with me, and it made me think, oh, thank God I said yeah, was because I've been on a journey. I think a lot of people now see the version of me on LinkedIn that is quite prevalent. I think, oh, that's Amelia. I've not always been this person. I've not always been this confident. I've not always been this authentic in my approach and in who I am. And if I can share this story, it will be 15 minutes from now, if I can help one other person be a bit quicker in their own journey and realisation to who they are and what they bring, however different it is to me right now, that's the beauty and that's the gift, and that's the value I'd want anyone to get from me waffling on, as my husband calls it. So that's me. I work in tech. My background is delivery and analysis, if that's helpful. I work for Infinity Works. I'm a client practice lead, managing consultant, so do all the things, people, accounts, You work in tech, you get it, that's me. Anyway, so, I love this bit. Who am I? So we're gonna go there to start with. And any time I work with anyone, or anyone even asks me a question, which is probably a bit annoying if they're in a rush, but anything that I talk about with anyone I mentor or anyone I'm just generally trying to help with career development, which is really important and passionate to me, is, well, do you even know yourself? If you're trying to move on in your career, if you're trying to achieve something, do you know who you are and the value you're bringing, actually what trying to change you're bringing, in whatever way? So when we talk about authenticity, and we'll get to that next slide with the definition, which everyone knows is coming, but do you ever take a minute to go, this is who I am, this is what I bring, and this is what's important to me? Because when we talk about authenticity, that's actually really important. And so many of us are so busy every day, every week, every month, that no one takes that time to step back. And that's really something that I'll talk about a lot. And if anyone's heard me waffling on, as my husband calls it, in any of my talks or things that I say, a lot of it will be about taking that time to self-reflect, to really step back. We're all different. Every person's answer to this will be different, and that's beautiful and that's great. So, but just take the time, because I think sometimes we don't know. We're living a life of expectations based on society, and it's not actually coming from deep within. So that was quite heavy to start, but just take that time. Who are you and what lights you up? And the reason I talk about that and talk about that in the workplace is because when we talk about authenticity, it's kind of like, it's an interesting term. And when me and Amy were like, yeah, I'll do a talk on authenticity, I was like, Google, authenticity, what is it? Obviously. So classic definition slides, we obviously all used to do it in our degree or academic papers of, I'm going to talk about this, and here's the Oxford Dictionary definition of what it actually is. But I think it's important tonight because we all have an interpretation of what authenticity is. We all have our preconceptions, and that's great. But for me to just talk a little bit about my journey with it, I just wanted to give us all kind of a bit of a central anchor with that. And what I loved about this definition, it was that part, it's the second part, it's about your actions based on your values and desires, despite, and this is the killer bit, despite external pressures to social conformity. So you can see why I went deep on that first slide, because if you don't know who you are and what's important to you, where's your anchor of when you know you're being authentic and true to yourself or not? You know, so it's that waiting back to you. So, love this. I love Canva and little pictures. That's not me. And I was talking to Bari at the start. I was like, I'm going to do this talk about how as this cookie cutter person of who I thought Sonic Tech and like consulting was, and they always wore corporate and black. And now look at me, I'm so different and vibrant. And I woke up today and I was like, I just want to wear black. I said to my daughter, does this look okay? I'm doing a talk and I'm meant to be really vibrant and stand out. She's like, yeah, just wear that. And I thought, do you know what, I'm just going to wear this. But anyway, there is a moral of the story. So the journey back to me, and I talk about how this became a really important topic to me when I started doing career development talks at boot camps. I talk about non-engineering engineering roles in tech, my journey through delivery and analysis and all that kind of good stuff. But there was a time 20 years ago where I was a different version of myself, and I felt when I started doing these boot camp career development talks, I felt it was really important. Like I got partway through a talk and I was like, oh, I just want to point out that I've had like a whole 18 years of highs, lows, in between tears, Pinot Grigio. Like the person you see now was not the person 18 years ago, and that's okay. And we all, part of us, we all have to go through that journey of learning and change. But if I can share, back to that point, if I can share one thing of how and help you expedite that journey, that you turn up and you feel like yourself, and that process is a bit quicker, and you may or may not drink as much Pinot Grigio, that's okay, and that's my gift and service and what's really important to me. So there was a time where I was in London, I was a graduate, I was Northern, I wasn't privately educated like a lot of my colleagues at the time. And I'm not going to tell a really great story about how I was really different, and I was, I was always me, but I was probably much more reserved than what I am now, much quieter. Some of you may or may not be pleased to know. And it took a long time for me to realise that actually all those things I was trying to hide, and I thought were to my detriment from a career development point of view, were actually my superpower. But that took 18 years, so hopefully I can speed that up for people. And a real life kind of light bulb moment for me in terms of learning that my superpower was just me being me and bringing that experience and being really open and honest and quite northern about it in front of you as colleagues, in front of clients, that was my superpower, came when I actually got some feedback from a colleague. So you see me as this kind of confident extrovert, but it actually took a few other people that I was working with to really realise what my superpower was. And this was only 2 years ago, so it's amazing really. And we were just doing some annual feedback at ThoughtWorks, where I was working at the time, and I was a delivery manager. And there's a lot of the time that I feel like the loudest person in the room. I don't know, like bringing it in and out, and like, yeah, you're the loudest person. But I am the loudest person. I'm normally the most positive. I love mornings. Sorry, not sorry about that. I also love coffee in the mornings, and when you've had a Pret, then I'm woo! So I try to avoid the Pret in Piccadilly, although I miss them dearly. But that's the thing, every morning I'd be in the room in Federation House, and I'd be like, hi, how's it going? Like, just so excited and ready for the day, and I've probably been to the gym, and everyone's like, oh. And in my head and in my filter, I was like, everyone hates me, I'm so annoyed. But it was actually the feedback from a colleague that said to me, oh, when you're not here, Amelia, we really miss your energy in the room. And I was like, oh, really? Because I tried to box that up, tried to conceal some of it at times when you get up in your own head. So the moral of the story is stop telling yourself stories. Stop telling yourself and putting a filter in between what you think you should be, how you think you should act, what you think you should wear. Today, wear the black, even though you're trying to prove that you're not some kind of like black or wearing kind of corporate person when maybe you are a little bit. But it's just be you, and it's that point of knowing who yourself and what lights you up that you realise what's internal, and that's your anchor, and that's okay. But that was the journey for me for even up to kind of a few years ago, other people in my team going, oh, we really like that thing about you. And I was like, oh God, I thought that was the most annoying thing. So I just want everyone to take a minute to reflect and be like, you know what your superpower is if you take that little step back that I mentioned before. So really just take the time we're all different, but to reflect on what you bring to the room, what you bring to your team, what you bring to your colleagues. It's all in there. I had to wait for someone else to tell me, among anything, that a lot of the time it's my energy, it's my drive, it's my authenticity in front of stakeholders, clients. I'm always professional, but I'm always myself. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's what they love, it's just that honest, transparent comms of, hey, this is going well, this might not be going so well, and I don't try and mask anything up. The version you see of me now is very similar to what you see of me in front of a client, what you see of me with my friends. It's that constant flow of who you are. And yeah, it changes to a degree, but you're always going to get the kind of full size of me. So yeah, I'm missing the leopard print, sorry Barry. But it's there. So yeah, when I kind of summed it up in terms of that journey over the last few years, it's like, who are you and when do you feel you're most happiest and most in flow? And where do you think you're sharing all of that within your work and life, and where are you not? To that point about being mindful of the stories and the filters that we tell yourself, there's stories, and I read this great article once, and at the end of everything, in terms of that internal dialogue, they would make you say, but is this fact? And if you put that, but is this fact? Do you know this as a factual, actual thing? a lot of the time you realise the stuff that's going through your inner dialogue and in your head, which stops you being authentic. It's not fact, it's yourself. And then have fun. I love what I do, I love work, I love being me, I love sharing my stories, and a lot of that comes through that journey that I've just paraphrased of the last 18 years and few years, in terms of realising that the things that are different about me are actually the things that people want and need in my team, in my company, in my delivery team. So just know that the space that you fill is a space that someone else wants you to fill, and what you don't fill, someone else will. And that's the beautiful thing about teams and cross-functional teams and tech delivery teams, and why I feel very blessed to work with the people I do. And sometimes they're like, thank God you're you, Amelia. I could not even consider doing what you do every day. And, you know, likewise with them. And that's the perfect combination of how we all fit together. So, but that's me, and that's just Amelia's viewpoint. Obviously, I love a good quote, I love a good affirmation to really get the positivity going in the morning. Just to compliment that cappuccino, but it really is summarised well with some of these statements. You know, be yourself, everyone else is already taken. Classic. Thank you, Oscar. Good, I didn't think of that first. Be who you are and say what you feel, because those who mind don't matter, and those who matter don't mind. A girl should be two things: who and what she wants, and nothing can dim the light which shines from within. So if we can all just take a minute, take something different into tomorrow, really lean in and think maybe something you're not being as authentic in your terms of work life and how you present yourself, what you do. If you want to wear the leopard print, wear it. If you don't, don't. So yeah, just be you and just be comfortable with that, and find out and listen to that inner dialogue of who you are, what lights you up, and what you're about, and what your superpower is. Really big Amelia face again. So yeah, that's me. Just, you know, that was a very quick version of the journey I've made, and I think it's important to share, because I think we all see a version of people nowadays on socials and this kind of thing. I think everyone's always been like that, and there's no internal monologue, filters, stories, and all that kind of good stuff, and there is. So, you know, just appreciate that no one is the finished article. Everyone's on a journey, as are you. So just appreciate and reflect on that, and just try and find a bit of joy and authenticity in what you do, and be you, and find joy in the workplace, which is, again, really important to me.